My name's Henry Granger. I'm 62, a retired Marine with a bad back and a good dog. After 32 years in uniform, all I wanted was quiet, somewhere I could watch the sunrise without hearing traffic or sirens. So I bought a little ranch out in rural Texas, just outside of town. It's the kind of place where folks wave as they pass, and the stars stretch out like they're trying to touch the earth. No neighbors, no problems. Just me, my old field Jeep, and Max, my dog, who's slower now, but still keeps watch like we're on patrol. I live simple, grow my own food, keep chickens, drink my coffee on the porch every morning before the sun burns off the dew. So imagine this. I open my mailbox one Tuesday and pull out an envelope thick enough to bruise. 87 parking tickets. From a town I've never been to. For a car I don't even own. And at the very bottom of that mess, a notice in bold black letters. Lien to be placed on property for non-payment. They were trying to take my land. The next day, a man in a blazer and sunglasses drove up in a brand new BMW. Didn't knock. Didn't speak. Just pinned another notice to my gate, like he was putting down a claim. I walked over with half a mug of coffee still in my hand, Max growling low behind me, and ripped the paper from the wood. It was real, legal. They were coming for my ranch, and I had no damn idea who they were. Let me tell you how it all started. And while I do, drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. I've got a feeling I'm not the only one they've tried this on. It started just over a year ago. I'd finally settled into the rhythm of the ranch. Slow days, quiet nights. Morning coffee before the roosters. Evenings watching Max sniff around the fence line. Every Saturday, I'd haul a few crates of tomatoes and eggs to the little farmer's market on the edge of town. Not for the money. I had my pension. It was about staying connected, about not disappearing. That's where I met Brandon. Young guy, maybe mid-20s. Wore a ball cap like he'd never taken it off. Said he was from Willow Creek, about 45 minutes away. We got a talking about old cars, dry weather, and how hard it was finding folks you could trust. He mentioned trying to fix up his Mustang. Said he didn't have a spot to park it while he worked on it. I didn't think twice. Told him I had plenty of room behind the barn. Just for a week or two, I said. He shook my hand like he meant it. The next morning, he showed up with that beat-up silver Mustang. Parked it right where I told him. We chatted for a minute. He thanked me. Promised to be back soon. But Brandon never came back. A week turned into 2. Then a month. I tried calling the number he gave me. Disconnected. Thought about towing it, but figured, what harm could it do just sitting there under a tarp? Out of sight, out of mind. That was my mistake. Because after that car showed up, strange things started happening. Blank envelopes in my mailbox. Footprints by the back fence. One night, someone knocked at 3 a.m. and ran off into the dark. Still, I didn't see it yet. Didn't realize that Mustang wasn't just a favor. It was the first move in a game I didn't know I was playing. Weeks passed. I kept tending the garden, patching fences, trying to pretend the weird little things were just nothing. But then came the envelope, thicker than before. No return address. Inside, 87 parking violations, all tied to my ranch's address. All for that Mustang. And at the bottom, same as before, notice of lien pending. I just stared at the paper, fingers tight around the edge. Max barked once, low and slow. He felt it too. Next morning, I fired up the Jeep and drove straight into the county office. The clerk behind the desk looked like I'd just asked her to solve quantum physics. She kept typing, squinting, frowning. Well, sir, according to this, she turned the monitor toward me, your property was added to the Willow Creek HOA jurisdiction 6 months ago. I blinked. Ma'am, I live in the middle of nowhere. There's no neighborhood, no subdivision, nothing but cows and barbed wire. She just shrugged. Must have been a filing mix-up, or part of an expansion plan. Paperwork was signed and processed. That word, signed, hit me like a brick. I hadn't signed anything. No mail. No visit. No damn consent. Back at the ranch, I tried calling the HOA. Every number went to voicemail. I left messages. No one called back. Then came the second envelope, then a third, and then the final one, taped to my front gate in a red sleeve like a fire alarm. Final warning. 5 days until legal action. That night, I sat on the porch with Max curled beside me. The stars sharp and cold above us. I faced sandstorms and bullets. I muttered, but this is a war of a different kind. And if they thought I'd roll over, they'd pick the wrong damn veteran. I wasn't going to wait for them to come take my land. So I went to them, woke up before sunrise, loaded my Jeep with gas, and pointed it toward Willow Creek, the place listed on every envelope. The town looked like something out of a magazine. White picket fences, clean sidewalks, kids on bikes with helmets too big for their heads. It was perfect, too perfect. I pulled up to the HOA office, glass front, American flag waving outside, like it was doing something righteous. Inside, a woman in a red blouse greeted me with a fake smile. "Can I help you, sir?" I handed her the lien notice. "I'm Henry Granger. You folks are trying to steal my land." She scanned the paper, and for just a second, something flickered in her eyes. Recognition. But she smiled again, colder now. "You'll need to speak with the HOA manager. He's not in today." "Then I'll wait." I sat down. She didn't like that. An hour passed. No one came. Needed to stretch my legs. So I walked down the hallway, spotted a door slightly ajar. Records room. I reached for the handle. "Sir," a voice barked behind me. 2 security guards stood there like they'd been waiting. One younger, buzz-cut, badge that read Kyle. The other built like a refrigerator. "You're trespassing," Kyle said. I raised my hand slow, calm. "Funny, your HOA didn't mind sending legal threats to my address." They didn't flinch. "You'll have to leave now," the big one said. "Manager's busy." I stepped outside, boots crunching the gravel, frustrated but not beaten. Then I saw it, down the street, parked in front of a 2-story house. A silver Mustang. Brandon's Mustang. The one that started this whole mess. I parked 2 blocks down and walked back on foot, keeping to the trees. That Mustang, it wasn't just similar. It was Brandon's. Same dent in the bumper. Same scratch across the left fender. It was sitting in the driveway of a polished 2-story house with big for sale signs stabbed into the front lawn. No one seemed to be home, but I wasn't interested in the house. I crept around back, quiet, careful. That's when I saw it. A small shed next to the garage. Door cracked open. Inside, boxes. Stacks of folders. Labels scrawled across the tops. HOA, liens, transfers. Others had codes I didn't recognize. I stepped closer. Then a black SUV pulled into the driveway. I ducked behind a hedge, heart pounding, breath slow. The driver stepped out, pressed pants, shiny shoes, phone in hand. It was him. The same guy who posted that lien notice on my gate. He walked up, used a key, and let himself in. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just some random house. This was his house. And Brandon's car was parked right in front of it. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a damn connection. I backed out slow, headed straight for home, tires crunching the gravel faster than I liked. My mind was spinning. When I got back to the ranch, a red envelope was taped to my front gate. Final warning. 5 days to settle or face foreclosure. My hands shook, not with fear, but with fury. They were serious. They were coming for my land. But now I knew something I hadn't before. Brandon wasn't some lost kid with a car problem. He was part of them. And I had just stepped into something deeper than liens and paperwork. I was standing in the middle of a setup. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the porch with Max beside me, my coffee gone cold, that red envelope still clenched in my hand. They were really doing it, coming after a piece of land I'd built my life around. Quiet mornings, hard-earned fences, and memories older than most of the men pulling the strings. The next morning, I drove to see an old friend, Charles. Retired Army, now a private investigator. Smart, tough, and not one to scare easy. I laid it all out, every detail. The tickets, the lien, the Mustang, Brandon, the black SUV, the shed full of files. Charles didn't blink, just leaned back in his chair, cracked his knuckles, and said, "This stinks, and not regular stink. This is organized." We spent hours digging, county records, development plans, anything tied to Willow Creek HOA. That's when we found it. Willow Creek HOA wasn't just a homeowners group. It was also a business. And the registered founder? Brandon, that same kid who parked his Mustang on my land. He hadn't stumbled onto me. He targeted me. It all started making sense. He parked his car on my land to create a record, an address, a paper trail. Then they started issuing tickets, stacking them until they could fake a lien. And now, they were using that mess to steal my ranch. Charles found development map, Willow Creek Phase 2. New homes, new roads. Guess whose land was highlighted in bold red ink? Mine. If they got my ranch, they'd own enough land to build 40 new homes. This wasn't about violations. It was about expansion. And I was in their way. But they picked the wrong man to push. Because I wasn't just fighting for dirt. I was fighting for something bigger. And I wasn't backing down. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A text, no name. You're in over your head. Walk away before you lose everything. Charles read it over my shoulder. They're watching you. I looked out the window. A car sat up on the ridge, dark windows, not moving, just sitting there. Max growled low from the corner. They weren't bluffing. They'd already broken into my life. And now, they were trying to scare me into walking away. So I made a decision. If they wanted a war, I was going to give them one. But I wasn't going in blind. We needed proof. Solid, undeniable proof. So Charles called in a favor, got us a forensic document expert out of Dallas. We scanned the forged deed and sent it to him for analysis. Meanwhile, I reached out to a veterans legal group Charles knew from his PI days, guys who'd fought their own battles against shady land grabs and corrupt agencies. They started pushing, quiet but firm, letters to the county clerk, request to pause a lien. It was like kicking over a nest, because when I got back to the ranch that evening, something was wrong. The gate was open. Max wasn't barking. Inside, I found broken glass. My office tossed. Desk drawers open. And my safe gone. Inside that safe, my land deed, my discharge papers, my grandfather's will. They'd taken the real thing. Max limped out from behind the barn, bleeding, scared. I dropped to my knees beside him, whispering, "I got you, boy. I got you." They weren't just playing games anymore. They'd cross a line. And if they thought I was going to fold, they didn't know what kind of man they were dealing with. Because I wasn't just planning to fight. I was planning to win. Charles had a plan. Risky, but solid. If we can't get them to admit it in court, he said, maybe we get them to admit it before court. So I called Brandon. Used a burner phone. Played it just right. Defeated. Tired. Said I was ready to sign. He took the bait. "Told you you'd come around," he said. "Meet me tomorrow. Noon. Willow Creek Park. Come alone." The next morning, I dressed like a man ready to surrender. Flannel shirt, clean jeans, forged deed folded in my coat pocket. Charles had a recorder in my collar. Tested it 3 times. "You get anything at all?" he said. "Just nod." I sat on the bench under a big oak tree. Wind rustled the leaves like whispers. Max waited at home, resting easy. Then he showed up. Brandon. Sunglasses. Fresh haircut. Smiling like he'd already won. "Glad you saw the light," he said, sliding down beside me. "You brought the paperwork?" I handed it to him, the fake deed. He didn't even look at it. Just slipped it into a folder like it was done. "That was fast," he said. "You always fold this easy." I looked straight ahead. "You always get what you want this easy." He chuckled. "When you know how to push this hard enough." Yeah, fear's a hell of a motivator. He leaned in close. "Honestly, I didn't think it'd work. Some folks put up a fight. You just folded." Click. I stood. He blinked. "Where you going?" Charles stepped out from the trees, phone in hand. "You just confessed to fraud, intimidation, and land theft, Brandon," he said. Brandon's face dropped. You tricked me. No, I said, steady as ever. You tried to steal from a Marine. And now the tide had turned. Brandon was arrested that afternoon. Sheriff Donnelly himself slapped the cuffs on him. The man protested the whole way, sputtering, denying, saying it was all a misunderstanding. But we had the recording. We had the forged documents. We had his fingerprints all over it. And I thought maybe it was over. But that night, I woke to smoke. The barn, my grandfather's barn, was on fire, flames curling through the roof like fingers clawing at the sky. Max barked until he was hoarse, and I ran out barefoot with fire extinguisher and rage boiling in my blood. Charles was still staying in the guest cabin. He was already on the phone with 911, hosing down the chicken coop to keep it from catching. We fought the blaze till the fire trucks came. Save the house. Save the dog. But the barn? Gone. 50 years of history. Torched. The fire marshal said it wasn't an accident. Someone used accelerant. Retaliation. Charles stood next to me, jaw clenched. They're trying to finish what Brandon started. But I wasn't looking at the flames. I was looking past them, into the tree line. Someone had been there, watching. The next morning, the sheriff came back. Said they'd found more. That Brandon's operation wasn't just about my land. It was a pattern. 3 other counties. Same setup. Fake documents. Forged signatures. And a name kept coming up, Jared Tate. Real estate lawyer. Filed my fake deed. Claimed I signed it in person. Only problem? The notary listed on the document, Cynthia Barron, had died 6 months before it was signed. They were using a dead woman's seal to steal my land. This wasn't just fraud. It was a coordinated attack. And somewhere out there, behind all this, was someone worse than Brandon. Someone we hadn't seen yet. 3 weeks passed since the fire. The barn? Gone. The chicken coop? Ash. But I stayed. Because you don't run from people like this. You hold the line. We found him. Thanks to Tyler, the kid we caught running from the second fire. HOA front desk clerk. Just a kid. Scared. Shaking. Crying as he handed everything over. Text messages. Payment drops. Names. One name came up over and over. Mr. Black. No photo. No address. Just a ghost behind the curtain. But Charles? He dug deeper. Traced shell companies. Bank transfers. Until finally, Gregory Blackwood, Austin real estate mogul, former city councilman, owned the company behind Willow Creek, and 5 other HOAs just like it. Targeted veterans. Seniors. Isolated folks. Same playbook. Land. Deeds. Fire. We took it all. Every document, every thread, and marched it straight to the Attorney General's office. They launched a full investigation. And when the smoke cleared, Blackwood faced 42 federal charges. Wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy, attempted arson. Brandon flipped. Testified. The others scattered. But me? I stayed. The lien was reversed. My deed restored. Framed now, right above the fireplace. Volunteers came from everywhere. Vets, neighbors, even kids. We rebuilt the barn together. One boy brought me a chicken. Named her Justice. Fitting. The ranch still bears the scars. Burn marks in the dirt. Bent wire on the fence line. But we're standing. Max has a new bed. A ramp. He limps less every day. And me? I write now. About land. About peace. About standing your ground. When a reporter asked what I'd say to the men who try to take everything from me, I said, you can steal a fence. You can burn a barn. But a man who stood under fire, you'll never take him. And I meant it, because I'm Henry Granger, and I was the wrong man to cross.